Okay, Rabbi Isai, we are at the Mishnah on DAF Samech, just a little bit more than halfway down. Okay? So the Mishnah, the theme of the Mishnah is talking about the Minchas HaOmer and how it is matir chadash, which means that when you have new grain that grew over this past year, since last Pesach, it's called chadash, and it's not permitted for consumption until you bring the Korban HaOmer on the 16th of Nisan. So Mishakarev HaOmer hutar chadash miyad. So as soon as the Korban HaOmer is brought, you don't have to wait for anything else. Once that Korban is brought, you can consume chadash. Harechokim mutarim mechatzos hayom ulahalan. And people who live far away, who have no way of determining what time the Korban HaOmer on the 16th of Nisan was brought, may assume that once noon has arrived, it's the Korban has been brought, and therefore they can eat chadash. Mishacharev Beis HaMikdash, Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sheyehei yom hanef kulo asur. But when the temple was destroyed and there's no longer a Korban HaOmer, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana, and his takana was that you have to wait until the day is over, the 16th of Nisan is over, before you can consume chadash. And that implies that really midioraisa earlier is also okay, even in the absence of a korban. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana that you have to wait until the end of the day, and it's called the day of waving, because you would wave the barley before offering it. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, v'halo min haTorah hu aser shenemar ad etzem hayom hazeh. So Rabbi Yehuda says, I take issue with you, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. It's not a takana that they made to wait until the end of the 16th before chadash is mutter. It's biblically prohibited until the end of the 16th, because the pasuk says, ad etzem hayom hazeh, that you have to wait until, you're not allowed to eat chadash until the essence of that day. And I learn ad ve'ad bichlal, until and including. In other words, it's aser until and including the 16th of Nisan. Now, mipnei maharechokim mutarim mechatzos hayom ulahalan, mipnei shehin yodin shein beis misatzon bo. The Mishnah now goes back to that din that we said before Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, which was that if you live far away, you can assume that by noon the Minchas HaOmer was already brought and you can eat chadash. And the reason is because everyone knows that the Beis Din will not be lax in the bringing of the korban. So surely by noon, by chatzos, you can rest assured that it was brought. Says the Gemara, Ravu Shmuel da'amri teravayu, bizman shebeis hamikdash kayim omer matir, bizman she'ein beis hamikdash kayim heir mizrach matir. So we have the Rabbanan of Bavel, Rav and Shmuel, who make the following halachic statement. When you have a temple and you have a korbanos, so at what moment is chadash mutter? As soon as the Korban HaOmer is brought. In the absence of a temple, after the temple is destroyed, so then the crack of dawn on the 16th is the thing that is matir chadash. Okay? Now, how do they know this? My taima trei kroi ksivi, ksiv ad haviachem, uksiv ad etzem hayom hazeh. He says, and the reason is because we have two psukim that seemingly contradict each other. One pasuk says that you have to wait until you bring the korban. The other pasuk says until the essence of the day arrives. So ha ketzad kan bizman shebeis hamikdash kayim, kan bizman she'ein beis hamikdash kayim. So the way to reconcile it is as follows. We understand that ad means ad velo ad bichlal, until and not inclusive of. So until, when the Torah says ad etzem hayom hazeh, until the arrival of the essence of the day, which means that once the light of the day arrives, means that at that moment, that's when chadash is mutter. How do you reconcile that with the bringing of the Omer? It must be that one pasuk is talking about when there's a temple. The other pasuk is talking about when there's no temple, that the crack of dawn is the thing that causes chadash to be mutter. Now, that's according to the two Amoraim, Rav and Shmuel of Bavel. Now let's take a look at two other Amoraim, the Amoraim of Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish da'amri teravayu, afilu bizman shebeis hamikdash kayim, heir mizrach matir. We hold that even when there is a temple, You don't have to wait till the bringing of the Korban HaOmer for the Isser of Chadash to be alleviated. The Isser of Chadash is removed at the crack of dawn. Now, V'haksiv ad haviachem. But what are you going to do with the pasuk that says that you have to wait until you bring the Korban HaOmer? So the Gemara answers, lemitzvah. That's only for the mitzvah. Now, what does that mean? So Rashi says it's like lichatchila and b'diavad, meaning there's a mitzvah's aseh to bring the Korban HaOmer, and only afterwards, mitzvah's aseh, only then should you eat chadash. But there's no mitzvah's los aseh, there's no negative commandment, such that if you wait until the crack of dawn, but you don't wait until the bringing of the Korban HaOmer, you're not in violation of the mitzvah's los aseh. You may be in violation of the mitzvah's aseh, that you have to wait until the Korban HaOmer. But b'di'evet, if you didn't, then you're not in violation of the los aseh, you're only in violation of the aseh. Now, but still, what about the Mishnah? Mishakarev ha'omer hutar chadash miyad. As soon as the Korban HaOmer is brought, that's when chadash is mutter. So doesn't the Mishnah say that you have to bring the Korban before chadash is mutter? So the Gemara says, no, that too is lemitzvah. That only is lechatchila, that you should wait until the Korban HaOmer is brought. But b'di'evet, if you didn't, there's no violation of chadash, at least not the mitzvah's los aseh. Now, what about the next Mishnah? We're going to see when we turn the page, we're going to see a continuation of this Mishnah. It tells us about the relationship between the Korban HaOmer and the Shtei HaLechem. HaOmer hayamater b'medina u'Shtei HaLechem b'mikdash. That the bringing of the Korban HaOmer permits chadash to the civilian, and the bringing of the Shtei HaLechem permits chadash for sacrifices. Now, what do I mean by that? So I'm not sure if we've studied this before yet or not, but there's a two-stage process for new grain that's grown over the winter. When you bring the Korban HaOmer on the 16th of Nisan, you permit all of that new grain to be consumed by regular people. But you may not use that winter grain yet for any menachos, for any sacrificial purposes in the temple. When does that new grain become permitted for sacrificial use? When you bring the Shtei HaLechem on Shavuos. So it's a unique feature that something is kosher for civilians, but it's not kosher for the Beis HaMikdash until a later date. That's the din of the Korban HaOmer and the Shtei HaLechem. That's what the Mishnah is going to tell us when we turn the page. But the problem is that there too, the Mishnah says it's based on the bringing of the Korban. Not like you're saying, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, that it's dependent upon the arrival of dawn. So the Gemara says, there too it's lemitzvah. There too, no, it's only lechatchila that you should wait until you bring the Korban HaOmer, but b'di'evet, if you didn't, you're not in violation of the mitzvah's los aseh. Now, what about the line in the Mishnah that says, and we turn the page, Mishacharev beis hamikdash hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sheyehei yom hanev kulo aser. Now this is actually a brisa, because this brisa elaborates on our Mishnah, that when the temple was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana that the entire 16th of Nisan you cannot have chadash. My taima, Mehera yibana beis hamikdash v'yomru ishtakad milo achalnu beheir mizrach hashtanami nechol v'lo yadi di ishtakad lo hava omer heir mizrach matir v'hashta di ika omer matir. So this is the end of the brisa. What I just read is the whole brisa. What does the brisa tell me? It says that the reason why Rabbi Yochanan made this takana, that the entire day of the 16th is aser, is because when you don't have a temple, then with the arrival of dawn, chadash is immediately mutter completely. When there's a temple, you have to wait until the bringing of the Korban HaOmer. Why did Rabbi Yochanan say, no, midirabanan, the entire 16th is aser? It's because he said, listen, we're in Gullus now, we don't have a temple. If we allow you to rely on the biblical law that with the arrival of dawn, chadash is mutter, God willing, next year, Mashiach will come and there'll be a Beis HaMikdash. And what's going to happen? People are going to say, well, last year we were able to eat chadash with the arrival of dawn. Why should we have to wait any longer? And they're not going to realize that now with the Beis HaMikdash you have to wait until the bringing of the Omer. That's why he said, listen, across the board, no eating Chadash until the 16th has elapsed. That's what the Brisa tells us the reason for his takana was. Now, the question is, V'isal kadaitach lemitzvah mishum mitzvah leikom v'ligzor, question mark? Now, my question to you is, I don't understand. If the whole issue of waiting until you bring the korban homer is only a lechatchila dikadin, and there's no real isser of chadash, at least not from a mitzvah lo saseh point of view, why would Rabbi Yochanan make such a takana? What would be so bad if now that we're in Gullus, we eat chadash immediately after dawn, and if next year Mashiach comes, God willing, so people also, the worst mistake that they'll make is that they'll eat it after dawn, but after dawn, according to you, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, there's no mitzvah lo saseh anyway, so what's the big deal? Why does Rabbi Yochanan feel he needs to step in here and make a takana? So the Gemara answers, Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai b'shitas Rabbi Yehuda Amra, the Amra min haTorah aser, shenemar ad etzem hayom hazeh, ad itzumo shel yom, ukesavar ad va'ad bichlal. So Rav Nachman gives this big bomb of an answer. He says, you have to say that according to Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, there's a machlokas between the Chachamim who say that as soon as dawn arrives, Chadash is mutter, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is on the other side of that machlokas together with Rabbi Yehuda, and they hold, no, it's not when dawn arrives, but you have to wait until the entire 16th completely elapses when you're not bringing a korban. And how do you know this? Because it says, ad etzem hayom hazeh, until the essence of this day. And they say that the word until means until and inclusive of the 16th. That chadash is aser. So basically, that's why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says that you have to wait until the 16th is over. So,
the 17th, basically.
What?
Yeah, then it's the 17th.
You have to, only on the 17th may you begin eating chadash. Correct. So the Gemara now says, Mi savar la kavase v'hamiflig polagale did non mishacharv beis hamikdash hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sheyom hanev kulo aser and Amar Rabbi Yehuda v'alomin Torah hu aser dichsiv ad etzem hayom hazeh. But one second, how can you say that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and Rabbi Yehuda are aligned in their positions? The Mishnah pits them against each other. The Mishnah had said that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we made a takana after the temple was destroyed that you have to wait the entire 16th, Chadash is Asr, you have to wait until the 17th before you can eat it. And on that, Rabbi Yehuda responded, I disagree with you. It's not that it's a takana that was only made after the Churban, but rather, in the absence of a korban ha'omer, you have to wait the entire day of the 16th. Chadash is still Asr, because it says, Ad etzem hayom hazeh. So it's not a rabbinic institution, it's a biblical law. So if the Mishnah presents them as disagreeing on whether it's rabbinic or biblical, how can you tell me that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is in agreement with Rabbi Yehuda and holds that it's biblical as well? So the Gemara answers, no. Rabbi Yehuda hu de katoi, hu sover Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai midrabanan ka'amar, velohi mideoraisa ka'amar. So the answer is that Rabbi Yehuda misunderstood Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is completely in accord with Rabbi Yehuda. But when Rabbi Yehuda heard Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai say, we're making a new rule that you have to wait until the 17th before you can eat chadash, Rabbi Yehuda thought that he was making a rabbinical institution, when in reality Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was saying that no, even biblically, it's aser because we don't have the korban ha'omer anymore. But wait a minute, v'hahiskin kitani. How can you say that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is saying that this is biblical law if it says that he made a takana? Everywhere else in Shas, the word takana means that he made a rabbinic ordinance. So the Gemara says, "My hiskin dorash v'hiskin." You're right, but here hiskin means something unique and different. Here, the word hiskin means that he found a pasuk which indicates that biblically it's aser as well. In other words, normally the word litakein means to make a rabbinic ordinance. Here, the way that we're understanding it, litakein means to find a pasuk that shows you that even biblically it's aser. So therefore, basically, the only way that we can make sense of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is if you guys hold that even with a temple, the arrival of dawn permits chadash, then you must say that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who says that you have to wait until the 16th is over, and chadash is aser the whole day of the 16th, that he holds biblically that it is a machlokes as to whether, the Chachamim hold it's the arrival of dawn, and Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yehuda hold no, the whole day is Asr, and the machlokes is, do we say ad va'ad bichlal, or ad velo ad bichlal? Do we say the word until in the pasuk is inclusive of the 16th? That Chodesh is Asr until and including the 16th? Or do you say that Chodesh is Asr only until but not including the 16th? Okay. Now Rav Papa v'Rav Huna b'Reder Rav Yeshua achli Chodesh b'urta d'shitzar nagi shivsar. So based on this machlokes, we basically have at least a three-way machlokes. One opinion is that Chodesh is Asr until you bring the Korban HaOmer midioraisa, and in the absence of the Korban HaOmer, then midioraisa you're allowed to eat Chodesh with the arrival of dawn, but Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said rabbinically you cannot. That's all according to Rav and Shmuel. But according to Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, we have a new interpretation, which is no, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai holds that biblically it's Asr. The Rabbanan are the ones who hold that with the arrival of dawn it's mutter. Rabbi Yochanan holds that biblically it's Asr in the absence of a Korban HaOmer, and therefore the whole day of the 16th is Asr midioraisa. Okay, so based on all of these different shitas, we have Rav Papa and Rav Huna. They live after the Churban, obviously. They would eat Chadash in Bavel starting with the 17th. In other words, it was a 2-day Yantif in Bavel, right, the 15th and the 16th of Nisan. And as soon as they made Havdalah after the second day of Yantif, they would immediately eat Chadash. Now, why did they hold that way? Kasavri Chadash b'chutz la'aretz derabanan u'lesveika lo chayshina. Now, the question really is like this. If you hold of a 2-day Yantif, why do you hold a 2-day Yantif in Golus? Because maybe today is the 15th, and tomorrow is the 16th, or maybe today is the 14th, and tomorrow is the 15th. So that's why I held a 2-day Yantif in Golus. So what right did they have to eat Chadash on Motzoi Yantif Sheni? They should have waited until after the 17th, which could be Safek of the 16th. If you're not allowed to eat Chadash the entire day of the 16th. So the answer is because they held that Chadash in Chutz La'aretz is only a rabbinic law. And since it's only a rabbinic law, we say Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula, that you can be lenient on a Safek D'Rabbanan. If it's only a Safek, whether today is the 16th or the 17th, we can be Makel, and we don't have to wait.
Surprising Rav Papa would be Makel.
Why?
I mean, these were the Gedolim of the generation, no?
Yeah, but it conforms to the general rule of Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. So it's not a question of being a gadol or not. If the din tells you that you're supposed to be makel, you should be makel.
Isn't that godless?
What?
Godless is
godless is to know when to be makel also. Now, v'Rabbanan devei Rav Ashi achli b'tzafra d'shivsar. But the rabbis in Rav Ashi's base medrash were a little bit more machmir. They didn't eat Chadash immediately after Havdalah. They waited until the following morning of the 17th before eating Chadash. Why? Kasavri Chadash b'chutz la'aretz de'oraisa v'Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai mid'Rabbanan ka'amar v'chitakin liyom hanef l'sfeika lo takin. And their rationale was as follows. They said, look, we hold that Chadash is a din de'oraisa even in Chutz La'aretz. And by the way, this is a machlokas haposkim, whether Chadash is de'Rabbanan or de'oraisa in Chutz La'aretz, right? And they held that it's de'oraisa in Chutz La'aretz, and therefore, if it's a sveika diyoma, then you have to, since it's an Isser de'oraisa is at stake, you have to treat the first day of Chol HaMoed as possibly the 16th of Nisan. And if the first day of Chol HaMoed is possibly the 16th of Nisan, then the whole day should be Asr. However, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made his takana, since his takana that really at the arrival of dawn, mid'oraisa Chadash is mutter, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, no, wait the whole day, but that's only rabbinic. And when he made his rabbinic institution, he only made it on when you know for sure it's the 16th. But if it's only a suffix, whether it's the 16th, so then Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's takana does not take hold. Amar Ravina, Amr li aim avuch lo hava achel chadash ela bu'urta de shivsar nagi tam nesar de savar la kereb Yehuda v'chayesh l'sveika. So Ravina has now the third shita, which is the most machmir, and he said that my mother told me that my father was machmir not to eat the entire day of the 17th, which means the whole first day of Chol HaMoed he would not eat, and it was only after the 17th, the night of the 18th, that he would eat chadash. And what was the reason for that? Because he held that chadash is asur mid'oraisa in chutz la'aretz, and he also paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that when the Torah says ad, it means that the inclusive of the entire day of the 16th chadash is asur, and therefore, since we're dealing with an isur d'oraisa and it's a suffix whether today is the 16th or the 17th, you have to treat it like it's the 16th l'chumra, and you can't eat it the whole day of the first day of Chol HaMoed, and you have to wait until that night. Okay, let's go on. The next mission. Ha'omer hayamater b'medina ushtei halechem b'mikdash. So we saw this line quoted by the Gemara, that as I mentioned, it's a two-stage process. When you bring the korban ha'omer, civilians can now eat chadash. But when you want to use that grain for karbanos, you have to wait until you bring the shtei halechem on Shavuos. Ein mevi'en menachos ubikur minchas behema kodem la'omer. Now, when it comes to the following three things, right, that are sacrificial or temple-related in nature, either a standalone mincha, or a mincha that accompanies an animal sacrifice, or bikurim. Let's say 2 out of the 7 fruits that you bring as bikurim are wheat and barley. So if you're bringing your first fruits to the temple to present to the Kohen, that's also sacrificial in nature, and therefore you have to wait until you bring the korban ha'omer before you can present any of these things to the Beis HaMikdash. And imhevi pasal. And if you try to use these things in the temple before the korban ha'omer is brought on the 16th of Nisan, it's totally pasal. What you did is totally null and void. However, kodem l'shtei halechem lo yavi imhevi kasha. Now, we said that you're not allowed to use these items really sacrificially until Shavuos, right? So what's the difference? Why are you telling me you can't bring it before the korban ha'omer? You can't even bring it before the shtei halechem. So the answer is it's a question of lechatchila and b'di'evet. Lechatchila, you're not allowed to bring these things to the temple until Shavuos. Menachos from Chadash and bikurim from Chadash you can't bring until Shavuos. But the difference is that b'di'evet, if you brought it before the korban ha'omer, even b'di'evet it's no good. But with the shtei halechem on Shavuos, if you bring it before Shavuos, before the shtei halechem is brought, then at least b'di'evet it's kosher. It's only lechatchila you're not supposed to. Yeah.
On Shavuos, what time did the shtei halechem? What time was that?
It was brought in the morning at some point.
And then people would bring their bikurim after, like that whole ceremony of every person bringing their thing.
I believe it was either presented on Shavuos itself,
like after the
but
morning.
after, or it really, as we'll learn when we learn Maseches Bikurim, you could bring. Well, we don't. I don't think it's part of DAF YOMI, but it's in the Mishnayos. You could bring Bikurim anytime from Shavuos until Sukkot. The entire summer was kosher for bringing your Bikurim.
Well, the shtei halechem were brought pretty early in the morning, and everybody after that for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah. So let's take a look at the Gemara. Yasiv Rabbi Tarfon v'kakashile ma bein koidem la'omer l'kodem shtei halechem. So Rabbi Tarfon was puzzled, and he said, I don't understand. Why is it that if you bring chadash to the temple before the korban ha'omer is brought, even b'di'evet it's no good, whereas when you bring if you bring it before the shtei halechem on Shavuos, at least b'di'evet it's kosher. What's the difference? Both of them are triggers, and either both of them should be kosher b'di'evet or both of them should be pasal b'di'evet. So Amar Lefanav Yehuda bar Nechemya, lo, im hamarta kodem la'omer shekein lo huter michlalo eitzel hedjot, tomar kodem l'shtei halechem shuter michlalo eitzel hedjot. So Yehuda bar Nechemya was a Talmud, and he says, Rebbe, it's very simple, very straightforward. He gives a what we call a balabatish teretz. Very simple, very straightforward. He says, when the korban ha'omer is brought, at least some aspect of chadash is alleviated from the grain. Why? Because it's permitted to civilians. So therefore, if I bring it after the 16th of Nisan, since some aspect of chadash has been alleviated, Therefore, b'di'evet, it's acceptable as a mincha. But before the korban ha'omer is brought, where no aspect of chadash has been alleviated from the grain, then even b'di'evet, it's no good. Sounds like a very logical answer, right? So, shasak Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon was silent. He did not respond. Now, the question is, why was he silent, right? But Yehuda bar Nechemia interpreted that as, I was able to answer the kasha. And Savu Panav Shel Yehuda bar Nechemia. So he became very proud of himself. His face lit up. He was gleaming, right, literally. And that's not a good thing to do. Whereas don't be so proud of yourself. If Rabbi Tarfon was the elder sage, if he asked the question, you think that in 2 seconds as a yeshiva bacher you're going to come up with the answer, right? So sometimes it does happen, right? But don't be so proud of yourself, thinking that you've trumped the Rebbe. So Amar lo Rebbe Akiva Yehuda tzavu panecha sheheshavta ezakein timihani im tarich yomim. So Rabbi Akiva turns to him very sternly and he says, Yehuda, you think you were able to best the Rosh Yeshiva? I wonder if you're going to live out the year. So Amar, or im tarich yomim, if you'll end up living a long life. Amar Rebbe Yehuda beRebbe Eloi also haperek prasa pesachaya kishalisi latzer shalti achrav Yehuda ben Nechemia heichanhu v'amru li niftar v'halachlo. So very, very scary end to this story is that this whole episode took place 2 weeks before Pesach when Rabbi Tarfon had this question and Yehuda bar Nechemia answered him. By Shavuos, Yehuda bar Eloi says, I came back and I said, hey, where's Yehuda ben Nechemia? And they told me he passed away. So
it's interesting. Rabbi Akiva's own students died during that time too.
Isn't that fascinating? Huh? It could be that he was one of Rabbi Akiva's talmidim. So it could be that he was one of those 24,000. Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak ledivrei Yehuda ben Nechemia nesachim bikurim shehikruvim kodem laomer ksher. So Rav Nachman says something that seems pretty self-evident and sort of question why he even has to say it. According to Yehuda ben Nechemia, the whole issue of why b'di'evet, if you bring new fruit, new produce, it's b'di'evet acceptable is because you've alleviated some aspect of the isser. Well, according to that argument, if something doesn't have isser at all on it, then also b'di'evet it's okay. So let's say I take grapes, for example, that grew over the winter. There's no isser chadash on grapes, right? It's only isser chadash on grain. So if I take the new grapes and I make wine out of it and I use it as libation for the mizbeach, then everyone would agree that for sure that's okay. So pshita. So the Gemara says, yeah, of course. Isn't that obvious? We're only talking about grain here. Why would you bring in other types of produce? So the Gemara says, Mahu detema hasamhu dehutra michlalo leitzel hedjed al hacha delo hutra michlalo lo komashmalan kol shekain hacha delo itzer klal. Because you might have thought that the only time that, according to this svar of Yehuda ben Nechemia, that you're allowed to bring new produce is when it's had some aspect of its isser alleviated, but something that didn't have any alleviation, you should maybe have to wait until it's time for all of the bikurim to be brought before you can use it in the temple bichlal, because there's no alleviating aspect that was presented to this new produce. So Kamash Malan, no, we don't say that. We don't say you have to wait until Shavuos to bring any produce to the temple for a mincha, for a libation or for nesachim. As long as it didn't have the stigma of chadash, you can bring it right away. Okay, weiter. Boy Rami Bar Chama, shtei halechem mahu she'atiru shelo kesidra. Interesting question now. We know that there's a two-stage process. First, you bring the korban ha'omer on Pesach, then you bring the shtei halechem on Shavuos, and then grain is permitted not only for the civilian but also for temple use. Right? That's what we said. What would happen if the stages of the korban ha'omer and the shtei halechem were reversed for a particular kind of grain? Would we still say that since the shtei halechem was brought first and then the korban homer was brought afterwards, it's okay? Or do we say, no, it has to be sequential in order for all of the stigmas to be removed? So, heichidami, kagon, dezar inu bein ha'omer l'shtei halechem, v'cholef alay shtei halechem, v'omer mai. Kesidron sharyan shlo kesidron lo sharyan, o dilma shlo kesidron no mi sharyan. So the question really is like this. Let's say a person plant right after the 16th of Nisan has already elapsed. They brought the korban ha'omer on the 16th of Nisan. On the 17th of Nisan, I go ahead and I plant wheat. And it grows during the interim period between Pesach and Shavuos. So this new wheat, its first experience of sacrifices that permit it is the bringing of the Shtei HaLechem. So that's not enough to permit it because it's still Chadash, right? It's Chadash because it hasn't experienced the Korban HaOmer. But maybe you could argue that, okay, so I'll wait until next year Pesach, when the Korban HaOmer is brought, and then not only is it no longer Chadash vis-a-vis civilians, but it's also no longer Chadash vis-a-vis Karbanos because it experienced the Shtei HaLechem from last year. Will it work in the reverse order, or does it have to be sequential that first it's got to have a Korban Omer and then it's got to have a Shtei HaLechem? So that's the question of the Gemara. So Amar Rabba Tashma. So Rabbi says, I'm going to try to prove it from the following brisa. Ve'im takriv minchas bikurim. The Torah says, it's a generic pasuk, that when you want to bring a first mincha to Hashem, it should be aviv, in the spring, or from the springtime, kalui ba'esh geres karmel. It should be parched grain of, the first grain of the spring, is how you should bring your first mincha. Now, what korban is this talking about? It's very ambiguous in the pasuk. So, b'mincha sa'omer hakasav medaber. So, our tradition is that it's referring to the mincha sa'omer brought on Pesach. Now, mehechan ba'a min hasoren. And what is the grain that the Torah is referring to? It's referring to barley grain. And that's how I know that the parched grain, in other words, this korban is the korban ha'omer, and it must be brought from barley. This is the only indication that the mincha sa'omer is from barley. It's a very ambiguous, it doesn't say barley explicitly, but our tradition is that it has to be barley. Now, ata omer min ha'sa'or no ena ela min hachitin, but how do you know? Maybe I'll argue that the korban ha'omer can be brought from wheat and not barley. So Rabbi Eliezer omer, nemar aviv b'mitzrayim v'nemar aviv l'doros, ma aviv ha'omer b'mitzrayim sa'orin, af aviv ha'omer l'doros sa'orin. So Rabbi Eliezer's answer is, the word aviv is used earlier in Sefer Shemos in association with barley. What are we talking about? At the end of Parshas Va'era, where it talks about the hail, the makkah of hail, it says that the hail wiped out all of the barley because the barley typically grows earlier in the season than wheat. So it says, V'hapishta v'hasa'ora nukasa, ki hasa'ora aviv v'hapishta giv'ol. That the flax plants and the barley stalks were wiped out because they grow earlier in the season. And that's what the word aviv means. They grow early in the spring. So you see that the word aviv is associated with barley. So here too, when the Torah says aviv, early spring grain, it's referring to barley. Now, v'Rebbi Akiva omer matzinu yachid shemevi chavasa min achitin v'chavasa min hasa'orin v'tzibor shemevin chavasa min achitin v'vin chavasa min hasa'orin. V'im ata omer ba min achitin lo matzinu tzibor shemevi chavasa min hasa'orin. So Rabbi Akiva says, I have a different way of deriving that the korban ha'omer must be barley. How do I know this? Because we find that an individual mincha can be either wheat or barley. Most of the time it's wheat, but like the korban sota is barley. So therefore, in order to make a communal mincha parallel to that, we have to find that wheat is brought by a community and barley is brought by a community. But since all other times when the Torah talks about a communal mincha, it refers to it specifically as wheat, we must conclude that the korban ha'omer must be barley, because otherwise there will not be the parallel between the yachid and the tzibor as far as having both wheat and barley. Davar acher, I'll give you another answer, says Rabbi Akiva. Im ata omer ba min hachitin ein shtei halechem bikurim. The other answer is, we know that the Torah calls the shtei halechem mincha chadasha, or like a new korban for Hashem, from the first fruit. And if you're going to argue that the korban ha'omer is coming from wheat, how could the shtei halechem be called a new fruit offering? It's not a new fruit offering. If the korban ha'omer was from wheat, then the shtei halechem is the Johnny come lately of new fruit offerings. It was already brought on Pesach. How can you call the shtei halechem the new fruit offering if it was already used, if wheat was already used on Pesach as the offering? So that's how I know that the minchas omer must be from barley, and therefore the very first produce of wheat from the winter harvest that is being used is the shtei halechem. And that's how I know that the korban ha'omer cannot be wheat, it must be barley. Now, that's the conclusion of the brisa. What do we want to infer from here? Here's Rabba's proof. V'im isa d'shtei halechem shelo kesidron sharyan mishkachas lo demakriv omer mehanach da'ashrush kodem l'shtei halechem ubasar ha'omer di'ishtakad u'shtei halechem mehanach da'ashrush kodem la'omer da'hashda ubasar shtei halechem di'ishtakad. He says, you know what? According to what you want to argue, that you can even have the sequence out of order and still be permitted to bring new wheat from, as a mincha, even if the shtei halechem was brought first and the omer was brought second, then I can show you how the shtei halechem could be called the first wheat, even if the korban ha'omer is also made out of wheat. You know how I can do that? I can tell you that the korban ha'omer from this year was wheat that grew between Pesach and Shavuos of last year. So therefore, it's not considered to be chadash anymore because it went through the shtei halechem, it went through the 16th of Nisan, and today it is no longer considered to be new wheat, it's old wheat. And therefore, when the Torah says, bring the new wheat for the shtei halechem, itake is new wheat, even if the korban ha'omer is also wheat, but it's coming from the old wheat that took root before Shavuos of last year, and therefore you could find the criterion of having the korban ha'omer as wheat, but it's old wheat, and the shtei halechem is new wheat, and therefore it fits into the pasuk. So the Gemara says, no, that's not a good raya. From here you want to prove that it has to be sequential, it can't go out of order. So the Gemara says, no, mi savras bikurim lepera kamrin and lemizbeach kamrin and v'ha'achal lemizbeach mi peri dahashasa. So the Gemara says, you're making a big assumption to make that argument. Your assumption is that when the Torah says that the shtei halechem must be the first wheat produce, it's referring to the first seasonal wheat produce, the first produce of the season. That's not what the pasuk means. It means that it must be the first wheat of the year after Nisan that is brought. And therefore, regardless of whether the wheat is from before Shavuos of last year or after Shavuos of last year, if you're bringing the korban ha'omer from wheat, it turns out that the shtei halechem is not the first wheat of the year, because the year starts Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and if you're bringing the korban ha'omer on the 16th, then that's the first wheat of the year on the Mizbeach and not the shtei halechem. So therefore, you can't bring this brisa as a raya. It could taka be that even if it goes out of sequence, it still works. We'll just do couple more lines. Boy Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama asked the following question. Shtei halechem hanatza sharia o chanata sharia. Now, it's ambiguous what this question is referring to, but simply put, he says, when we say that the shtei halechem is permissive of you bringing bikurim and menachos to the temple, do you go according to the budding, or do you go according to the sprouting after the budding? Now, the question is, what are you talking about, Rabbi Bar Chama? My hanatzu, my chanata. Ilay ma hanatzu de pera v'chanata de pera, hashta hashrasha sharya hanatzu v'chanata mibaya. He says, wait a minute. There shouldn't even be a question. If you're talking about the budding and sprouting of the kernel of wheat or the kernel of barley, to tell me that as long as it budded or sprouted before the shtei halechem is brought, you can use that new grain for menachos, that's not true. The halacha is that as long as the wheat stalk takes root before the shtei halechem is brought, even before it even starts budding kernels, that's considered to be okay. And if the shtei halechem is brought and then it buds afterwards, you can still use that for menachos. So that can't be what your question is. Ela hanatza da'ola v'chanata da'ola mihavi ki hashrasha olo teiku. So really what Rami Bar Chama is asking is he's not asking about barley and wheat. That we've already gotten clarity on. The question is as follows. What about bringing bikurim? At what point can I say that a tree, let's say a fig tree, or a date tree, or a pomegranate tree, that I'm going to be bringing bikurim from, at what point of maturation does the tree have to go through in order to be considered to be part of the first fruit season? So the question is, we're talking about the leaves on the tree. The leaves on the tree, at what point do the leaves of the tree have to grow to show that they are now beginning to produce? Is it the budding of the leaves, or is it the a further stage of growth of the sprouting or the really flowering of the leaves? How far do the leaves have to grow? Because once the leaves grow fully, even if the fruit has not yet been produced, then you can still bring from this fruit tree bikurim over the summer, right? That's considered to be part of the first fruit season, right? And the question therefore is, how much do the leaves have to grow? Just a little budding or more significant growth? And that's what we say is teiku. We'll hold it here for today.